So, my name is Thomas Gerstmann. I, I am self-employed consultant for data-driven marketing, data-driven culture online, UX optimization for web and apps, A/B testing and personalization. I do help companies to do experimentation program rollouts to stick all this together into a into a initiative to change and optimize their digital media. And some clients I work for are Volkswagen, or the Ergo company that is quite known in Germany, in Europe, and maybe also worldwide, and several small medium businesses. And but let's not talk about my person, but let's talk about yeah, the questions. What is this meetup today about? And I'll give you a short introduction. So, what is, as a first question, a decision at all? And a decision is the result of a process, the selection of an action or output among several possible alternative options. It is a final choice which may or may not prompt action. And the important point upon such a definition is that it's not only relying, and bringing up another quote of Cassie Kosikov, who is chief decision scientist at Google, that decisions can be hit by both humans or machines alike, and or even by both in cooperation, because the thing is that it needs a final decision to change something, to do another output, which can be, for example, a decision when looking at a picture: is it a cat or is it a dog? To maybe decide that's what we are looking at is a cat. Or it can be a kind of more complex and human decision where people say they want to, for example, decide over a budget and where to allocate this budget and what to achieve with this money. So, coming to the question, what is data-driven decisioning? Data-driven decisioning, or data-driven decision making, is the definition is to rely with every element of a strategy solely on data, to make interpretations based on data for improving success. So data-driven means you totally, fully rely onto data, and you make a decision that's only on data. And we have in a second an example for this. The second thing I would like to talk about today is a data-informed decision. A data-informed decision making is to take data into account to guide decisions for improving success. So here is a human integrated into the process, but this human takes data to make better decisions. Example for data-driven decision making. So fully the algorithm decides alone. Here you can see, and the example is about A/B testing that we have, for example, on websites, where you deliver a version A to 50% of the users, and you deliver another version B, for example, with another image of people, for example, looking onto an offer, onto a button, like they look that side down and say, there is the button. And the other version is where people look directly into the camera, and you can see maybe that the one where people look onto the offer is working better. It gives an uplift of 46%, and maybe the other gets a downlift of 32%. It's the best version is this, and there you have simply the data, and you decide to follow the data 100%. Another example is a data-informed decision making, and I'll show you here a screenshot of my personal time tracking tool, where I have some since beginning of this year, where I've added some interesting data. So what is going on here is that you have a emotionality tracking. I wouldn't recommend everybody to do this within this company when there are other people that are looking at such data. That's maybe not cool, but for me personally, it's really cool to see which clients, which tasks I do love. I do this year to see where is it going. And I also make an annotation how fit I am, if I'm top fit or if I'm kind of tired. And when I take all my time bookings, for example, at the end of the month, the quarter, or the year, I can clearly see which clients I'm happy with, at which times I'm top fit. And this is something I can take into a data-informed decision making to use this data to get better with my work quality. So what are the advantages of data-driven or also data-informed decisioning? It's fact-based instead of gut feeling. It's sustainable, goal-oriented, and it's also great to support goal-oriented structures of different people working together. The status quo is that in 2019, that's now 2 years old, but that's not too old, I would say. And I do believe it's still not so much different. That do you believe your organization is data driven? Only 37% of people say yes, and 63% of people say no. And can you access your data in a comfortable way so that you get data-informed decisions available at a more basic level? They also say no, 67%. An approach, if you'd like to establish data-driven or data-informed decisioning, is first time identify questions, then define goals, measure your goals that you've defined. Like I would say, I want to be more happy at work, and then I start to track emotionality, and then I need to provide this. It's a bad example at this point. I need to provide it to the team so that everybody is informed about what is the data landscape. I need to make sure that everybody understands. I need to establish a culture where all the company is discussing about this, and then I can optimize based upon data. And then the circle starts again. Okay. If you have any questions towards this part, as the introduction is not there to make a discussion upon this, let's meet after all the talks in the coffee bar session. Then we can discuss also about this.